taxes!
He's a 10.
I choose this family.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 132 of 911 Lone Star Roundup. I'm one of your hosts, Grace, and with me are my lovely co-hosts, Katie and EJ.
Hey.
Hey guys.
Today, we'll be talking about Season 5, Episode 10 of 911 Lone Star, titled All Who Wander, which is also the winter premiere. And you know what? I think we all got a little surprised by some of the punches that went in swinging with this episode, so we get straight to it. What an opening scene, I will just say. I was not expecting us to open quite on this.
Angel Gabriel is now pastor, sorry.
I saw him and I had forgotten that he was going to be Gabriel, and I was like, oh no. Anyway, I couldn't stop laughing a little bit every time I saw him. That's beside the point. So we open up on Judd's A meeting, and he is there with Owen, and he's saying that it's 28 days without a drink and 28 days since his best friend pulled him back from the ledge. Great opening.
Aww.
So I'm like, aw. And that's when it like panned over and Owen was like, yeah, it was cute.
I think we were gonna say the same thing. We love that he's calling Owen his best friend.
Yeah.
I know, every time it just gets me.
I love it.
So this is a faith-based A meeting. So the Reverend is asking Judd how he does it, and as we said last episode, the Reverend is Gabriel from Supernatural. And again, I couldn't stop laughing about it. But I think his name's Phil in this or something.
Yeah.
And I was like, Phil. Yeah, his name's Phil. So he keeps stressing to his Reverend. And Phil's like, oh, it's Phil. And we're all alcoholics here. And Judd says how his buddy told him exercise helps. So apparently he's been doing a lot of exercising because the Reverend asked him, how he's doing it, how he's coping, how he's made it to 28 days. And so Judd says that exercise helps, that, he also plays a lot of video games, and also mentions prayer because Phil brings up how God must have helped a lot. But as he's saying this, we're seeing like flashbacks to him doing these things, and also we get flashbacks to him also drinking. So he is not being honest. He has not been sober 28 days. He has been drinking late at night and is lying about it. And as difficult it is to see this, I'm glad they did it because this is true of a lot of addicts and alcoholics' journeys. Is a lot of time involves a lot of lying.
Right.
So that's rough.
Yeah.
It was part, like, I wasn't really surprised just because he was really trying to sell like it in a way.
Yeah.
So I was just like, and I had read that like they were suspicious about him lying about being sober. So there was also that, but I was just like, yeah, this is too good to be true.
Yeah. Well, and I feel bad, he's been going through a lot, and he went back to work, because, obviously he was at his wit's end, missing Grace and stuff, and then just to see the flashbacks of him going back, and like you can see he's really not holding up and doing the things he needs to be doing, and I'm like, oh man, Judd. But I'm glad Owen is there for him, like he's pushing him to work on things.
Yeah.
So
yeah, for sure. But we leave this scene being like, oh well, sure.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, whatever.
I'm glad they're not playing a linear road though on this.
Mm-hmm.
Because recovery is not linear. And so yeah, but it's gonna be interesting to see. So Nancy and Marjan go to see Tommy, and talk about another hard-hitting scene.
Right?
I know.
And
like so many things.
yeah, I figured Nancy was there. I had seen a clip of this scene, and I hadn't seen that Marjan was there. It had just simply been like a clip of Tommy's hair falling out. So I already had a suspicion on what this was going to be. But Tommy is resting after chemo. As anyone knows, chemo is a motherfucker and just sucks the life out of your body.
Yeah, my mom's doctor told us it kills every replicating cell in your body. Blood counts, hair follicles, anything that reproduces in your body, it'll kill. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, that's not a pretty picture.
I know. I remember when my mom's best friend went through it, like my mom telling me about like them hanging the bag, and then like her friend was like, "Yep, that's basically poison."
Yeah.
Yeah, you're basically, you're going on the hopes that everything else in your body keeps going long enough for the cancer to be killed, but
Yep. That's
it's
exactly what it is.
it's nasty. So, and Tommy's saying, chemo sucks, it's true. And when Nancy goes to get Tommy water, Marjan shows Tommy the scarf she got her, which I was like, oh my
I
gosh.
loved it.
That was like, oh, that really made the scene.
Yeah.
She's like, she got these scarves from the same places she gets her jobs at, and she like knew all about well, she was able to explain, these scarves have more grip, these ones slide less, easier to wrap, that kind of deal. So I just was like, oh yeah, it's I think she called it modal fabric, which means, it has a little bit more grip.
Yeah, it was really neat because I don't know if we've ever really seen a lot of interaction between Marjan and Tatami. So to see
No, I don't.
her setting up in that way, it was just really awesome.
Yeah, like they have an established relationship, but it's not
Mhm.
necessarily something they always show all the time.
Yeah.
Sure, but I loved it. And you see, Tommy's tired, Tommy's, drained, but she's still Tommy. She's like, oh, that red one's sassy. And so Marjan helps her try it on. She takes off the head wrap she's currently wearing. You just see chunks of her hair fall out, and Tommy has such beautiful hair, and we've seen it in such amazing styles and all that. So this is just, oh, it's so difficult. And Marjan gets a call and says that she should take it. And it's Joe. He's trying on outfits. He's meeting her parents. And we just see Tommy and Nancy in the background going like, ooh, girl, what's going on?
Yeah, meeting the parents. What does this mean?
It's like, oh, that's big in any relationship, So everyone's like, oh my gosh, what? And so Marjan then just goes flops on the couch, and they ask, what's going on? And Marjan explains, Tommy had asked, is that her sweetie? And Marjan
That
goes,
was
yes,
so
that's my sweetie.
cute.
Right?
I was like, I love it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Marjan then explains that Joe is meeting her parents for the first time. And Nancy's being like, wait, your parents are coming to town? Do we get to meet them? And Marjan's like, it's a quick trip. I think she's a little afraid of that prospect, maybe. But Marjan's looking sweaty, and she explains that's nervous as hell. And in her culture, when you meet the parents, it's when you kind of establish whether you're going to be like compatible as a couple. So this is, and Tommy says it's make or break time. So meeting the parents is nervous in any relationship, but in this, it has such a huge cultural connotation that it's like, oh,
Yeah. I loved how like Marjan was kind of calming Joe down, being like, they'll love you, like everything's gonna be okay. And then like she gets off the call and she is totally freaked out, like she is sweating up a storm. And like Tommy even was like, I thought you said that, like, and she's like, oh no, I'm freaking the hell out. Like literally, I love that so much.
Yeah.
She's like, I told him what he needed to hear.
I know, which we love that.
Right.
Like, I totally understand that. Like, I'm the same way because I'm like, oh, totally freaking out, and I need somebody to just be like, okay, it's gonna be okay.
Yeah. Oh, I get that. Felt that way, way relatable. And Martian's like, the pressure is on. Like, okay. So immediately, first couple scenes, we have established the main plot lines of the episode, which I love. Judge cooking breakfast, and we're at the 126. TK is looking for toddler beds online, which is so adorable. And he's saying, like, this is crap. There's a police car bed and a fire truck bed, but no ambos. Like, I feel like Carlos would have a vote in a particular.
I was just about to say, I think Carlos wins.
So TK, you worked on an ambulance for a while. You can get by on an ambulance or a fire truck. You can get by on a fire truck bed for a while.
Right.
Or maybe make one yourself. I don't know. Get creative.
I could see Carlos building one. I could totally see that. Oh my god.
Oh, please.
The way the
Did
whole
we all just
126
picture
would come
that?
over.
Yep. I think
Oh
we
my
all
gosh,
just did.
Oh, that would be so cute. If we don't get at least a scene, if this is meant to happen, if we don't get at least a scene of them designing Jonah's bedroom, I'm going to sue with my non-existent money.
I know I saw a picture of like the social worker coming over and they had made a makeshift bedroom.
Yeah. The drop back to the loft is it's only a 1 bedroom.
I know, which is
Uh.
that's gonna be complicated.
Yeah, they're gonna have concerns with that.
Yeah, they may. How are they gonna fit that in 2 episodes? If they have to
Well,
move, I
And
don't know
there's
what
an
they do.
asteroid coming, so there's a lot to cover in the last two.
Well, I know they're covering it on the next episode, but I don't know what more.
I'm just saying, scrap the asteroid. We got enough else in here.
Literally,
Now.
I'm like, I don't care about no asteroid.
But so Nancy's going, oh, that's because the anti-EMS bias starts at the cradle.
I love that line.
Yeah, that was good. That was a good line.
And Tika's like, yeah, or toddler beds. And then Paul comes into the room and is like, did you say beds? Are we bed shopping? And TK's like, I'm trying.
Right.
And Paul laughs and he's like, so that means you and Carlos are going to adopt your little brother. And TK says that's the hope, but their adoption attorney says they need to take the state test before they bring it up with Enzo. And I'm like, okay, yeah, that's fair. But so far, it doesn't sound like the adoption attorney is raising any concerns. So hopefully, legally, that should be fine. But we will see. They get a call at a guns and ammo warehouse, which of course we're in Texas. And there's
Right.
there's a fire and bullets are flying everywhere, which is not great. They can't get SWAT there in time, and Owen tells Wyatt to tell the RA units to stand back. They have 2 victims in there, so Owen's talking about how they need to get to the victims, and you see the shot of Judd just looking at the fire, and you're there like he's gonna do it. You're going, don't do
He's
it.
going
Don't
full
do
buck.
it. Don't.
I had to say
Oh,
it.
he's going buck.
Yes, he is.
That's the one
This
thing it made me think of.
This made me think of the sniper episodes
Yes.
when he goes and climbs the crane when there's a and I'm like, don't do it, just like we did it bad. Oh, he went full buck.
Oh, yeah. He went bug. Yep. And I love how you can say that and it just everybody knows what you're talking
I
about.
know. I know.
Yeah. Oh, and so you see that shot, you have that moment being like, oh, don't do it. He's gonna don't do it. And then Jed's like, I'm on it. I'm like, fuck. So, because bullets again are still flying everywhere. And Owen's yelling at him not to do it, and Marjan and Paul like, Judd, what are you doing? And Judd goes directly in the line, fire, and bullets are you just see them flying around, and he's just walking in. Like, and he's not ducking, he doesn't have his helmet on.
He's in a daze.
He doesn't have shit. Yep,
Yeah.
he is in a self-destructive, dare I say, suicidal daze.
He's not using his noggin wisely, that's for sure.
That is for damn sure. And Owen, I think he grabbed like a mini dumpster or whatever. He was pushing it to, because there's always a chance of a stray bullet outside of the warehouse. So he's pushing it to get to there. He runs in, he tackles, because they also have realized it's going to flash over. I completely forgot about that. But they're also like, oh, it's going to flash over, which like, oh, fuck, that's bad enough without the bullets.
Right?
And so Owen tackles him, like to get him down, and then Owen and Judd get to the victims just in time, naturally. And then Owen has Mateo look them over, and Judd's butt vest caught, I think I saw like 3 bullet patches on there. Like he got struck a couple of times in the vest. I saw it on like that side shot, but he's like, you see him pulling a bullet out.
Yeah, I saw the one, but yeah.
But just being so dang stubborn, and there was one that actually hit in the heart area.
Yeah, that's the one I saw that it like caught.
There were 2 more that were on like the abdominal part of the vest, which if they had gone through, like that's bad enough injury. But he pulled one out like just around the heart area, and you're like, ah. Fortunately, they had the vest on, but like, I'm just like, he's lucky he didn't get one on his freaking head.
Yeah, really.
Not that I think their helmets would have like stopped that anyway. It's not Kevlar, but still, he's lucky he didn't get one in his freaking head. Because I think when Owen knocked him down, there was one that flew by at head range. It's like,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
lovely. So yeah, that's not great. So we're back at the 126, and Judd's saying, like, oh, both the guys from fire are gonna make it. Of course, he's acting all fake jovial, like, oh, it's fine, tits a scratch, kind of deal.
Dude,
And
not a scratch.
no
Literally.
scratch. Owen's concerned, and he asks for the room. And I feel like every time this happens, everyone's just mentally going, "Oh, you in trouble," because that's what
Right?
I'm doing every time someone does that. And Judd asks him, if he's mad because he went rogue, and Owen's like, "I'm not mad. I'm concerned." And it's, Owen said he saw Judd staring into the fire like he was looking into the void, and Judd's going, because he wasn't even necessarily looking for the victims when he was in there. He just stopped and stood there. And Judd's like, I lost my bearings.
Oh, that's what we're calling
smoking.
it?
Oh,
Yeah.
well, noted. I will add that to my vocabulary. But no. And Owen's like, it did not look like Judd was in a hurry to get out. And Judd's like, oh, are you trying to suggest that I was trying to off myself? And Owen's like, I'm like, that's what I'm suggesting, my dude.
Yeah.
My brother in Christ, that's what I was suggesting. And Owen's like, I don't know, were you? And Judd's saying, oh, no, God, no. It's me. And I'm like, exactly.
Exactly,
Also,
because if we're going back to his past, there were points where that would have been a thing in like season 1.
Yeah.
yeah. That's true. And I would just like to say no one is immune from having suicidal thoughts or ideation. So like just because you say it's you doesn't mean jack shit. If anyone ever just looked at me and went, no, it's me, I'd be more concerned actually. Just saying. So Owen says that he knows sometimes in recovery you have to walk through some really dark places. And he just wants Judd to know that he doesn't have to do it alone. And Judd's like, oh, I have a meeting there today. It's a big one. And he asks Owen to join. And Owen says he will. And I kind of knew immediately from this. I was like, oh, he's getting his chip today. And obviously we know he's not sober. So that just sinking feeling. So then we go and we're having a meet the parents time. Joe and Marjan are there, of course, and Joe's saying how he can't wait to skip to the part where they're married. And Marjan says, me too. Yeah, because she says, this is the meeting to determine if they're compatible. Really, this is the meeting to get engaged, essentially, with her parents' blessing. So yeah, this is higher stakes than just that, And she's like, oh, soon enough. Joe's freaking out just a little because Marshawn is agreeing to him saying as long as they don't crash and burn. Because she's trying to say chill, but you can see she's also looking really worried. Joe's freaking out saying, I thought you said they'll love me. And Marshawn says, they will, but they can be intimidating. As long as they stay strong and calm and on the same page, they'll be okay. And then immediately turns around and goes, oh, also, we're gonna go with your full name, Yusuf, instead of Joe.
That's right. Yeah.
And Joe's like, what's wrong with Joe? And Marsha's like, he's just more traditional. I feel like whenever the word traditional enters the conversation, I'm immediately a little bit more concerned.
Yeah, because it's like you're trying too hard and you're trying to make it so perfect. And I totally understand like scenarios when you feel you need to do that, but we all know like where this is gonna circle around to be.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, we already knew they were traditional because, Marjan had an arranged, or it was an arranged engagement for most of her life. And, it sounds, we got an illusion Saturn pass for sure. But it's like, oh crap, when that comes to marriage, that's its own beast. Nothing wrong with traditionalism, but it can be hard to overcome sometimes. So Marjan sees her parents, and it's funny, when Joe greeted her dad and they kissed on the cheek. Marjan says that she forgot to mention that traditionally it's 3 kisses in Lebanese culture, and I do love that they're going with Lebanese culture because she, like Natasha Karam, is Lebanese,
Right.
so it's great that they went with what she is herself. So that I was just like, oh, good, we're going that path. Great.
And that was also
Great.
mentioned that Marjan was Lebanese in previous seasons too, so it wasn't like it wasn't something new that they were introducing.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember whether or not they'd introduced that before. I'm not surprised that they mentioned it before. I just couldn't remember, but kind of nice to have like a reminder
Yeah.
at least. And I so cool. Marjan saying, you know, how Joe was her physical therapist and she didn't know he was Muslim until she bumped into him in the halal market. And she's like, oh, it's meant to be. So Joe's saying how he has two sisters in Atlanta. His baby brother is in Houston, finishing his PhD. Marjan also mentions that he basically raised them because his parents died in a car accident when Joe was 17. So Joe says how his parents had a beautiful marriage, that they cherished each other every day, and how he hopes to have a marriage like that with Marjan, which is absolutely adorable. Just saying.
Yeah.
Oh, all of this hits so hard with the actor of Joe being Natasha's real life partner too. I'm just like, this is so cute.
I know, it really does make it like so great.
I just kept thinking about that during these scenes. I was like, oh,
Right.
just the chemistry was amazing. And Walid says, you know, how it's obvious that they love each other very much. And Marshawn is like, yay, you know, it's like she says to Joe, she's like, I told you they'd see it. And then Walid continues to say that love isn't nearly enough. A successful marriage isn't just a contrast of love. It's one of logistics. And I'm like, yeah. So now we're on to the sticky part.
Yeah, that was in a bit of a question mark. I mean, I knew this was gonna happen, but it was like really.
Yeah. I mean, he wasn't wrong in any marriage, in any relationship. You've got to figure out logistics of some sort.
True.
So, but yeah, that is a damper to have put, especially when your parents are the one bringing it up. Like, but
Yeah.
obviously they want to hear logistics, so they know if they actually approve. So now we get into sticky territory. So Marshawn is trying to she's trying to appease him a little bit. You can obviously see she's panicking. She's like, oh, you know, we love logistics.
She's selling it a little too hard.
Yeah.
She is trying so hard, and you can tell she's just falling apart a little bit. And Joe is keeping it together better than she is. But so their parents ask about where they'll live, and they're like at Joe's apartment. And her parents are not happy about that. They definitely wanted to hear a house thing, and they keep bringing up, you know, how Marjan was raised in a house and all that, and they keep bringing up kids very frequently during that whole house thing. And I'm like, oh dear. And then they ask about kids, and they're kind of saying, you know, they want 4 kids. And I'm like, okay, that I grew up one of 4, so.
And then it was like, well, 4 is a general idea, but is a number.
It's
Yeah,
just
how
a
about
number.
how about the person with the uterus say how much they want to have?
There you go. Good idea.
No, I assume that they had talked about that before, but I think she was really afraid of her parents disagreeing with the number, which I'm like, hey, it's the 2 of you's bodies and the 2 of you's finances. You figure out how many kids you want to have. I was a little concerned there for a moment that they were gonna like want to be child free or something, and her parents would have an issue with that. No, it doesn't sound like that. It just sounds like Marshawn got nervous. But still, I'm like, let's let the person with the uterus and the one who's gonna carry them for like 9 months say how long that's gonna take.
Yeah.
Or how many times it's gonna be. Just say.
Right.
Anyhow, and they're asking who will take care of them, and Joe's saying that he's gonna leave his job. And the moment he said that, I was like, oh no, I know where the problem will be with that. Because Marshawn's going to stay working. And he's like, Marshawn makes more than him and he wants to stay home with kids. Our parents don't like that. They're like,
they do not.
You're gonna stay home while my daughter risks her life. Okay.
Yeah. Like they already didn't like the fact that they wanted to live in an apartment. Now they definitely like don't, because like I can't imagine living in an apartment with 4 kids. It's just not gonna happen. That's not really realistic.
Right, yeah.
But like they really did not like that. Once that was brought up, it only got worse from there.
Yeah.
It did. And Marshawn is floundering. at that point. She's like, oh, it's a plan, which is exactly how I sound like whenever I disagree with anything. And I'm trying to be diplomatic about it. So I can understand where her parents were coming from, as we find out later. And Waleed says they might want to reconsider, and Marshawn's like, hopefully, the plan, and Waleed says the marriage. So that did not go well.
Yeah, that's a good statement.
It was just a bit of a mess.
I was a little secondhand embarrassment here, but I felt so bad because Joe was trying so hard to keep it together, and Marshawn just fell apart. I'm like, girl, I get it. I really do. But so now we go back, speaking of hard, to the big A meeting that Judd invited Owen to. At the end of the meeting, they're talking sobriety birthdays. And Judd's quiet. You kind of see like some shadows in his face. I wonder if he would have spoken up if Owen didn't. I really do.
Yeah.
And Owen says, oh, Judd has one.
I was just like, oh no, because my face was just.
Does he know?
Yeah.
Because Judd didn't immediately say anything, and I was like, is he gonna say it or isn't he? Because that would have been an admission right there to Owen that he wasn't.
Right.
Especially since he had invited him because it was a big one. And that probably would have been an admission just in general, because he had said before that it was 28 days.
Yeah.
So I think he was struggling with that. But Judd does take the chip for 30 days sober. And Judd's asked about his hand, and Judd says how there was fire at the gun range. And Owen, you can just tell Owen what the fuck it's not.
Owen's face is just like, interesting. Do say more.
Right. And doesn't he say something about it was there before the gun range or something like that?
Oh,
Not
yeah,
during this point.
Okay.
But once everyone's left and it just looks like it's them, they're setting chairs back. Owen calls him out, and he's like, should you have really taken that chip? And Owen's like, Judd's like, you're the one who told me to put my hand up. I'm like, boy, you are a big boy with big boy pants.
You are a grown-ass
You
man.
can, yeah.
It's like, I understand, but I'm also like, you are a grown-ass man.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And so Owen tells him, hey, you had the bandage on your hand before the call. And Judd says how Owen got him. And Owen's questioning, did you fall down drinking, or did you cut your hand on a beer bottle? And I do love that Owen's not taking shit. He's not mincing words. He, again, short of TK himself, maybe, he is the best person to be helping Owen with it, or helping Judd with this, because he has already dealt with an addict son.
Exactly.
So
he's professional at this point.
The best.
Yeah.
It's best. Yeah. And Judd admits, he's had a few drinks. It's not a big deal. And sometimes a man's got to do what he's got to do so he can get out. That's life. And Phil hears this. He was in the other room, and he comes out and says, no, that's a lie. And just about the most dangerous one people can tell themselves. And that is extremely true. Along with the lie that you can handle it. That is a lie, and a dangerous one.
Yes.
So Judd tells Phil, you don't know each other. We don't know each other. Stay out of it. And I'm like, oh boy, you are lashing out. Phil is like, no, we don't know each other because you spent the last month lying every time you were in here. And then says, and that's without judging.
And that's not judging. It's statement of facts.
It is facts.
True.
Also, you're allowed to judge a little bit, but I know you can't because you lead the group at our orphan. But he absolutely I'll judge a little bit. I judge a lot. And this, like, obviously we know the route that's happening here. We know what's happening. And Phil says lying's part of the disease, and Judd can't get better until he owns it.
No.
And just like, not till I own what precisely? And Phil's like, the rage. And that he has never met an alcoholic who wasn't filled with it, which, preach. I know former alcoholics, I know current alcoholics. Every one of them has had a rage thing. That's what alcohol does to you, especially tequila. But
what's that song say? Tequila makes your clothes fall off.
tequila does weird things with people.
Yeah.
It really does. But rage is probably one of the most common ones I've seen.
Yeah.
Someone's throwing back tequila real fast. Concerned. But anyhow, the harder you try to stuff it down, the more it fights its way out in ways you cannot control. And it's like, okay, I have some rage. I do. I have some rage. I have some rage. Maybe I'm upset and angry about the fact that my daughter doesn't live in our home anymore. It would be like, did she move out? Which, yeah, that makes sense.
How does
Yeah, that makes
a
total
3-year-old move out?
Yeah, I'm like,
Yeah,
Owen, She's 4, not like 19.
TK's age here.
Well, I was wondering, do the grandparents know? Did they take her away and he's not said anything? Like, what's going on here? But no, so Judd says how Charlie stays with her grandparents because she says it's too hard to be at home without mommy. I'm like, ouch. Yeah, that difficult. And she is right about that. Judd says, okay, so maybe I need a little courage to fortify me before I get into that empty bed every night, okay? And I'm like, sir, you don't just need an AA meeting, you need therapy.
I was just about to
Again.
say, like, when I was rewatching this, I'm like, this is all fine and dandy, but I'm like, Judd really needs to go back to therapy.
Yes.
I mean, that's why, like, AA meetings are great, but you do need to do therapy on the side of it. And that's why I've known multiple people in recovery who have therapists on the side of it. And that sometimes is even a condition. I think that's a condition sometimes for sober living houses too.
Mhm.
Like you need to be doing both on the side as well as having a job and stuff like that. You definitely need to attend meetings. I'm not entirely sure the requirements of having a separate therapist, but you should. That's the point. And he needs it badly. I know he struggled with therapy before in like season 1, but he needs to go back. And Phil says, well, now you're getting somewhere. Judd says that when he gets home, it's going to be him and his demons alone, and that's that. And Owen's like, well, I'm going to go stay with you then, 24/7. That way, when Judd's demons come out, they're going to have to get through both of them.
Which
And
I
I'm like,
loved.
Go, Owen.
oh, yeah.
Plus, it was like kind of like a parallel to like season 1 with TK and Owen. So I love that this is like a thing for like Judd and Owen, and like Owen staying with Judd.
Yeah. And you know what? Owen is no stranger to facing demons. So,
Yeah.
he is also a good person as far as that goes to be there. He is well aware of that. So Joe and Marjan talk after the failed lunch. They're in like the parking garage or whatever. And Marjan says she's like this because she gets weird when she's around her parents. And she's like, well, try again next year because they're coming back around Eden of next year. And Joe's like, understandably, he's like, I don't want to wait. I want to marry you. And it breaks
Right.
his heart every time they have to say goodbye and he wants to wake up with her. And I'm like, oh, that's so cute. He's like, I'd marry you tomorrow if I could. And Joe says that the woman he fell in love with is his fighter. And Marshawn says, just not with them. And oh, god damn, that hit. I'm just gonna say.
Yeah.
Felt bad. I'm called out.
Yeah.
I am a fighter in a fair amount of ways, but around my parents, our sisters, historically, I have folded before, plenty of times. So yeah, felt
Yeah. I relate to that because I used to be like not okay. So I used to be such a pushover to the point, like I think it was when I started living with people when I was in school that I really started to stand my ground about certain things, or like I wouldn't let people push me around. Um and stuff. So I think I'm not necessarily like that anymore. To an extent, there are times where not necessarily a fighter, but like I feel like that really taught me a life's lesson to like not be like that in certain situations.
Right.
But like
yeah,
that's kind of what that makes me think of.
yeah. And Joe says, well, I guess it comes down to, are you a firefox or are you a mouse? Because her father calls her like little mouse, and I'm like, oh, that's a burn.
That was such a good line though. I was like, oh,
Yeah,
so
Yeah.
good.
But yeah, it was a really good line.
yeah.
She needed to hear it, and she needed to be called out on that.
Yeah. And then we immediately switch over to the 126 where Mateo's like, damn! So we used both of your nicknames against you? That's cold.
That was so funny though. Like I loved how they like put these scenes together with that because that was so funny. I was just like, "Yep, that was the typical response I would expect from Mateo," and I love it.
Yep, that's about right. I probably would have been the same way, actually. I probably would have been
Same.
like, and Paul says, it sounds like he gave you an ultimatum. And I will say, in most relationships, I do not agree with ultimatums, or I should say most circumstances, but in this one, I can understand. I can understand what Joe was coming from. And Marshawn's like, yeah, pretty much. And TK asks, what are you gonna do? And Marjan questions, what is there to do? Her parents made their decision. It's her duty to respect it. And so Marjan has a decision. And I'm like, yeah, that's hard. Because she doesn't want to disrespect her parents, but like, at what cost?
Right.
So this leads to the call. Past, there's plaster stuck to the girl. This girl who is modeling her sister's art project and did not put oil down on her, and this art student did not put oil down on her sister before her putting plaster down on her, which ouch.
Yeah.
And yeah, she is feeling stinging because of potential chemical burns.
Yeah, because of the lime in the plaster.
Yeah, the lime in the plaster. And this girl is in pain. And the art student, the sister, keeps trying to talk for her. And
I know,
Nancy
that
shuts
really
that
annoyed
down.
me.
Yeah, that was pissing me off. I was like, seriously, she can talk to herself.
And Nancy shuts that down. She's like, no, I want to hear how she feels. And the sister goes like, oh, like a little, like, oh, well, if you say so. Like, it's just kind of that mannerism.
Mhm.
But the plaster's burning her skin. And, the girl's not admitting to feeling all that much pain. And Nancy says how her blood pressure is telling her it stings a lot. And finally, the girl kind of like admits to it. You can tell she's kind of reluctant to admit it with like the sister there. And I'm like, oh, I spot another people pleaser. Cool.
Yeah.
About that, I am also a recovering doormat.
Yeah.
So true. So true.
Yeah. So, am I just keep getting called out in these episodes?
Sometimes
Okay.
it happens.
Sometimes it happens. So they need to get this off of her because it's burning her a lot and is getting hot. And TK is a genius because he's like, well, what do they tell you to do whenever they put a cast on you? And it's don't get it wet. So that's exactly what they do. They go put her in the bathtub. Because if it, that it'll help, and it did. So Marjan scores the plaster, and it comes off before the chemical burns happen, which is so good because you do not want a chemical burn.
I've had chemical burns before. They hurt like hell.
And can last
I've
a while.
I've not had like visible chemical burns before, but I have gotten like when I switch out like dishwasher soaps at work, if you get that stuff on you, you're gonna be in pain. And I have been in pain.
Yeah.
Sucks. So yeah, when the sister was, I figured that's kind of what was happening here. Like I managed to wash my hands and get stuff off me before it actually burned me, but I still felt the pain. I imagine that was how was happening here.
Mhm.
And so when sister's in the tub, she says how she's gonna stick up to her sister, but in the sign she doesn't. She caves. She lets the sister do it again. This time with the oil, promise to put oil on it. Like the girl doesn't even want to be there.
Nope.
And you can tell that hitting for Marjan, and then Nancy says like on the way out that she just doesn't want to disrespect her, which you can tell that's another burn, and that's using Marjan as words against her.
Right.
So yeah. Yeah. So now we're at the firehouse again, and Judd is trying to fix the sink. And he's singing it hard, and it's asking like, is Owen gonna or Owen says, you don't have to do that. And Judd's asking if Owen's going to lecture him more on his rage. And Owen says, you won't get over your rage until you deal with your resentments. And Judd's like, who do I resent? Grace? You're saying I resent Grace? And Judd says, why would I resent her? And Owen says how he knows she was following a calling, but Charlie doesn't have a mom at home, and Judd is left alone. But Judd says how he isn't mad at Grace because about that, he is mad at the lie that took her away. And I was like, oh, shit. So Owen asks, what lie is that? And Judd says how there's nobody in the sky looking out for them. There's no master plan.
Right.
And I think Owen asks what we all are asking. When did he lose his faith?
Yeah.
And Judd says how the other night he tried sending Grace a voice text, which was absolutely heartbreaking. He was like sending her 911. He was like, I need you to come back. And he asked God for a sign. And Owen's like, And Jed says, you know what came back? And Owen's like, nothing. And Jed says, it's worse than nothing. The text didn't send. And Jed looked up at the sky and said, you win, and broke the bottle on his hand.
Yeah,
And Jed
that
says
was
that is
so hard. And it was just like, well, we've seen Judd at this place before, like in season 1, he had lost his faith and like stuff, and like he was kind of like, what's the point? And that he's back there again.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's back again. And Jed says, you know, if that isn't clear, then he doesn't know what is. And he says, you know how they say in recovery, they're supposed to call out to a power greater than themselves? And Owen's like, sure. And Jed says, so what do you do when you know nobody's out there? Oof. Yeah.
He's definitely lost his faith. Well, and it's hard, you know. I mean, I've gone through those times where I felt like, is God there? But, you know, you kind of, that's when you go to people and you ask for help and you don't not wallow in your own dark, negative voices.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Okay, so next call. So tire comes off of a car and it smashes into another car, and the car is on fire. Yippee. My wife's like, is this a joke? And it's not.
Yeah. And
Um,
honestly, I kind of understand that because it felt like such a joke because it sounded like a video game from like Wyatt's End. Like it really did. And it's just like, wait, is this for real?
Right.
yeah. So Wyatt dispatches the 122, and they're like, we can go, but that's across from the 126. Can't they handle it? And Wyatt says how 126 is already on call, but Judd's radio is saying he's at the house and is going to see now. So Judd extinguishes the fire. No one breaks the window, and when they pull him out, Judd realizes it's Phil. And Judd realizes he's not breathing, so he has to give him CPR. And they get him back, and Owen's like to Judd, well, that's your sign.
Right.
Yeah.
So Marjan goes to meet her parents again. And she says how she's doing the mouse thing again, and they're confused. But Marjan says that whenever she felt the slightest bit of disapproval, she scurries for cover and she's done. Which, honestly, fair enough. Yeah,
Yeah.
good analogy. So yeah, she just tells her parents, screws with them and that they're a match. She tells her parents she loves her job and she never wants to give that up. She knows it's not what they want from her, but she hopes to God they'll give her their blessing because that's what she wants for her, and she is so sure of it. The parents agree, and they're like, "Oh, yeah, her blessing." And she's like confused and is like, "That's it." And they're like, "Oh, all we want for you is to be happy." She's like,
Yeah.
"Well, why'd you give us a hard time?" And her mom says, "Because they were all over the place. They didn't think that's what she actually wanted." And I'm like, "Oh no, I gave them the wrong impression."
Right.
And Waleed says how he wishes Yusuf was with her so he could shake his hand. And Martian's like, oh, he actually goes by Joe. And they're like, oh, okay. Like, they should chill with it. Uh, and they were hoping they could plan a wedding together. And Marchand says, well, you want to throw the wedding before her parents leave. And her mom's worried, you know, that's doing this on short notice. And Marchand's like, oh, don't you worry. I know people. And I figure you can just kind of call everybody you've ever saved who is in the wedding industry and be like, hey, can I cash in a favor?
Right.
But I wasn't sure where that was going. I wasn't sure if that was going to be it.
Oh, I
But,
knew. I was like, Owen Strand can make it happen.
Between Owen and Carla.
oh, that's true.
I
Owen
was
and
like-
Carlos, they've got
I
it.
was like, well, this is a wedding that Owen could definitely micromanage.
Oh, yeah.
Finally, it's his
Oh,
time to shine.
He might not ever get his third one, so you know what? He can manage there. That's so fair. So last minute wedding. You know, this is a wedding, and yeah, this is great. So the flower arch, Carlos is taking care of this. And you know, Carlos is like, I think it's a little thin on the left. TK's like, no, it's not. And I was like, it's a little thin on the left. And we're looking at it and we're like, it's a little thin on the left. Oh my gosh, 2 perfectionists plus TK. Nothing can go wrong.
Love it.
And oh my gosh, it was, again, we didn't expect this in this episode, but I love it. They fully, it was amazing to see the wedding. It was another it was another wedding of another culture, so
Mhm.
it's not the traditional wedding we've seen on TV 100 times.
Right.
This is an Islamic wedding. So, and also I think it was tailored specifically to Lebanese culture. Um,
Yeah.
or at least parts of it definitely were.
Yeah.
So we get to see it. It's so freaking cool. And Tommy asked like how'd she get her wedding dress on such short notice? And Nancy's like she didn't. She had to record a month after she started dating
Yeah.
Jill.
Yeah. I was
I'm
like,
oh, that's
oh, okay.
and the dress was so pretty. The dress, her hijab, the veil, all of
Yeah.
it. Oh gosh.
Yeah, it wasn't actually a dress. It was like literally just a jumpsuit with like a
Mm.
skirt attached to it, I heard. I heard that,
Yeah.
I don't know if this is actually true, but I heard that Natasha designed it.
I would
Oh,
be
that's so cool.
surprised.
I would be surprised.
Yeah.
That makes me wonder, like, if she gets married, is that what she's wearing? I don't know. Definitely have some questions raised about that.
It was very Marjan, I will say
Yeah, it
that.
was. It was very pretty.
Marchand. Very Marchand. And it just was so, so good. Um, it was just amazing to see the different traditions. And Cleo was also there, and
My
honestly,
favorite part is the fact, okay, so
Yeah.
this is literally me watching it live. I'm like, oh my God, Cleo's in the episode.
we couldn't get Buttercup, but I guess we got Cleo, and I'll
I
take
was
that.
totally sold because I was just like, because she's just sitting in one of the chairs at the table, and I'm like, wait a second, that's Cleo.
Yep. And I saw the big pearl necklace, and I was like, oh my gosh.
Oh my
Like, that's
We
gosh.
love that.
Natasha.
That's
Oh,
Cleo
I
is an
love it.
absolute icon.
Exactly.
Oh. But she comes to set all the time, so it
Yeah,
makes sense.
they knew they had to do it before the show ended.
Right?
Yeah,
Everybody wanted it, so we got it.
everyone wanted it. So so Jed's sitting on the step of the ambulance, and you can tell he is struggling.
Yeah.
And Owen comes over to join him, and Owen's like, Jed's like, don't worry, I didn't spike this punch. Um, and Owen's like, he was gonna ask where Tommy went. And Judd says how she wasn't feeling good, so she went home. And that's too bad. And that's what Owen says. Um and Judd has tears in his eyes. And Owen asks, how are you doing? How are you thinking about Grace? And Judd's like, oh, I'm always thinking about Grace. And I'm like, Sierra, why'd you have to leave?
I know.
Oh
I know.
gosh. I
I
keep
don't
wondering
blame
if she's
her
gonna
for
come
leaving.
back for like
I
I'm gonna wonder if they
know.
managed to contract her to come back for like the last episode or something. They've got to have a reunion scene or something like that. They've got to
I'm
have that.
I'm interested to see if that will happen because I know that she wanted to leave because they weren't paying her. They weren't going to pay her enough or whatever.
I wonder if they'll like come like contract for an episode like enough or something. And it'll be one episode compared to a season. I don't know.
I would
From
be
what I
surprised if it happens just because
Yeah.
they really did lowball her for like what
Yeah.
for this season. That's why she decided not to come back. So
From what I
honestly,
heard, other people have asked that, and they're like, the show was already filmed and finished before they announced that they were canceling, and she had not come back for any of the filming.
yeah.
So I'm imagining maybe something will happen with like I don't know, he like gets a call and she says she's back or coming back or something. I can't imagine this like not ending in a happy perspective, but I was curious how it was gonna go. So now that we know she's not coming back in person, I really wonder how it's gonna happen. Okay. Anyhow, that's a whole other discussion for a whole other thing.
Right.
And so Paul announces the bride and groom cutting the cake. And just like laughing, and it's like, are they going to use a sword to cut the cake? And it's like, oh, it's a Lebanese tradition. And I was like, that's pretty cool. It is cool. I loved watching that scene. I'm like, hell yeah, sword.
Right.
I love seeing like all the traditions because like
Yeah.
I've really never seen like a wedding like this on TV.
Oh.
I really don't think I have. So it was really cool to see like all the things that they did and it was really cool. I
Uh,
really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I've never seen an Islamic wedding on TV. I don't think I've seen a Lebanese anything other than like food on TV before. So like I did love that they brought both of those and they did it with like such joy and like obviously Natasha's Lebanese and Muslim herself, so the
Right.
with authenticity as well, I can only assume.
Mhm.
So it was so cool. Um so then we have Owen and Jug going home. I keep mixing up the names. What is with that? They don't sound alike. Owen and Jug going home. So they're staying at Jug, and Owen says, we catch the last part of the game, and Judd says, he's gonna go to bed. And he lays in bed looking at the picture of Grace, and he wakes up in the middle of the night. He gets a bottle out to drink, and he starts praying, Lord, please help me. And he does almost drink. But then he gets a text from Grace that reads, "Sorry, I keep missing you. Can we talk now?" Uh,
Yeah.
and he calls her, and they talk, and that's what he needed. He dumps the alcohol down the sink, and Judd tells Grace, she answered a prayer right now, and she has no idea. I wonder when slash if he's gonna tell her all this. I imagine he's gonna have to tell her at some point, but I wonder when he's gonna tell her
I mean,
everything.
not unrealistically, but like I don't know how to put this, but like in some way he will have to tell her, but I just don't think that they're necessarily going to show that to like us, if
Yeah.
that makes
Yeah, I don't think
sense.
so either. Well, here's
Because it'd be
here's the
pretty hard
deal.
to portray.
Right.
Here's the thing is that you never stop being in recovery. It's
Right.
like TK's still in recovery.
Hmm.
He hasn't fallen off the wagon in a while. So, but he's still in recovery. You're always going to be in recovery. So he's going to have to because it's an important part of him now. And also you don't keep that kind of secret. But I can imagine that's maybe not a conversation for over the phone.
Right.
So yeah, again, I think you might be. I'll be surprised if they say it or show it on TV for us. But anyhow, Owen sees this, and I got kind of got the impression that he was staying with it for a while. And he's smiling, and he's seen his prayer being answered. So that is where we end the episode, and I just giggling, kicking my feet. It was good. I liked this episode.
It was such a good episode. It had me so emotional
Yeah.
because just like it was a good balance though, but it was like very emotional because we had like these heavy Judd scenes, but then we had these really good like Marjan scenes. So I think it balanced out so well. I'm glad they like put all this in this episode, just because it would have been so heavy if it was just like Judd's stuff. But like it balanced out so well because like one minute I'm like about to cry because it's just like so sad and I'm totally feeling for Judd. But in another sense, I'm just like, wow, this is really great for Marjan. Like this is like we've come a long way, I guess.
Yeah.
So it was a good like balance.
Hmm. Yeah, I
Yeah.
really liked it. I, I think I had could have popped in on when you guys were talking about the wedding, but yeah, I think it was a really good wedding too. And I was really shocked to see it in this episode and just everything so condensed. Um, but then I had to stop and think and realize that, technically there was a big gap of time between end of the season 4 and beginning of season 5. So technically they've been together for like a year,
Yeah.
which they were ready. And, in their culture, there's not as much physical intimacy prior to marriage. So I can
Yeah.
imagine that there was a desire and a want to have that, and realizing they wanted to honor their religion. And I really, out of the wedding, what actually I was I'm glad they showed it was her showing her hair to him at the
Yeah,
end in the bedroom
I
hotel,
know.
because that is this last one of the only things that, well, not one of the only things, but it is one significant thing that most women don't really, it's not a big deal for, but for somebody in their culture, the husband is the only one to see the woman's hair. And I loved his reaction to it. I loved how they did it. And I love that they showed that on screen, because I remember she's she's come a long way, because the first time that we saw her lose her hijab, it was this big deal and it was all over the place, and the guys were covering her up so she could put it back on when she had gotten lost in the grain silo in season 1. So I'm like, wow, we've come a long way with her in that. And I'm happy for them. And I'm glad that Grace and Judd got the chance to talk, because I think that's being apart from your significant other is really difficult, but being apart in a way that you can't communicate with them on a regular basis is even worse. It's not like she's just in Europe doing something. She's in an area where there's really not a lot of cell service. And, you know, with the wedding, I love that they used the contract. I was trying to remember, I had to look up the name, but there's the same thing as in the Jewish faith, the marriage contract. It's called the ketubah. I remember researching it when I was writing a story about Jewish characters, but it's a marriage contract. It's very common to be used. So yeah, I love that they portrayed that, and I'm really surprised that there's only 2 more episodes left, because I feel like we have a lot more to talk about in like the next 2 episodes, and I'm starting to wonder what we're not going to get resolved.
Yeah. Or what's gonna feel rushed.
Yeah, I know, because I think they're doing a pretty good job with covering everything with the time they have left.
Mm-hmm.
But I do know there are multiple things that are supposed to come up for multiple different characters.
Yeah.
So it'll definitely be interesting to see how that happens in the next 2 episodes.
Yeah. All in all,
Yeah.
it was a great episode, and it was a hair rushed, but worth it to see everything that happened.
Yeah, I like that. It was like very like spontaneous, but like we pulled this huge, still like very elegant wedding
Yeah,
together.
wedding off at the firehouse.
Yeah, I loved that part of it.
Paul and Mateo with the swords.
That was, I know, it was funny.
Yeah. It was so good. It made me happy. I love seeing all of it. Yeah. Do we have any fan thoughts?
Yes, we do. So many different varying opinions, which I do love.
Okay.
Always love seeing a Marjan episode, and her getting married, like, yes. Yeah, I agree. And then I thought the episode was good overall, but felt a little rushed at some points. Also, really not a fan of the way Grace is being written as a result of Sierra not being paid her due. It feels gross to me. I totally understand that take of it. It's very difficult. But I think honestly this is the best storyline they could have did. I did see a video today where somebody was like basically calling out all the people that say that like they should have just killed her off or recasted her, and saying like how disrespectful that is to like Sierra because of the fact that she wasn't being paid enough like she should have.
Yeah.
And
also we
and
would
I
have had a
agree.
very different season.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true.
Like disrespectful, and it would have been really weird. Yeah, no, sorry, I said cool in response to my manager. This was so just texting me back. No, it's yeah, I understand. I do understand. I sort of agree. Like, I don't think she's necessarily being portrayed badly,
Yeah.
but also I don't really feel like Grace would have left her child so early, like for this, like the way she was written before. So I know it's conflicting. But
Yeah.
I mean,
It-
it's kind of what we got right now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like a hard scenario, and you have to like keep out of the fact that like, not to say it's out of character, but I don't know. It's a complicated situation
Mm-hmm.
that I would it's way too hard to unpack all that.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
not uncommon for people to go on a mission trip, so I'm glad they went that way. But sometimes I feel like we have to separate the actor from the character when we're considering things, because, you know, we want to support the actress who definitely wasn't, her contract was not up to what it should have been, and I think that's fair that she chose not to come back. And I'm glad that they decided not to kill her off. But
Yeah.
I also know that it's not uncommon for family members to take a mission trip, but it's usually not for very long, usually a couple weeks, maybe a month. And this has been quite a bit of time now. Unless she like quit her job and got a job with this company that's doing it, then she should be coming home soon.
Right. Yeah. And lastly, I cried and felt happy at the same time. I feel happy for Marja and awful for Judd. I appreciate the spotlight on him, but I wish it wasn't an alcoholic storyline sometimes. Which that's valid.
I can see that. Yeah. I think it is definitely dealing with potentially like with triggering topics for a lot of people. Because
Yeah.
whether I feel like for a lot of people, even if you've never struggled with addiction yourself, you know an addict and you know an alcoholic.
Yeah.
So I think that there's definitely, especially if you had one in your family, alcoholism kind of runs in my family, so I can get it. Um, it, I can understand, you know. I think I can appreciate the way that they're handling his storyline, but I can also kind of agree that at times that I sort of wish they'd gone somewhere else. I don't
Yeah.
know. I can agree.
Yeah.
I can see I can agree to some extent.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I totally get it. And it did like when that storyline did come up, it did seem not like random, but it did kind of seem like stretched maybe a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just like, whoa, where did this come from? So I totally understand that, like,
Yeah, I don't feel like the Grace of season 4 would have left her daughter
yeah,
so soon, you know.
Or
right,
even just her husband for so long.
Yeah, and
right,
I'm actually really upset about Charlie being with her parents, but I'm also glad she is away because she's not around dad who's drinking and
yeah, yeah, like that line or that coming up in this episode bothered me just a little bit, even more in that than that one with the Chris storyline, a lot more actually, just
Hmm.
because she is much younger.
yeah.
So it's kind of like, oh, like, so not, I'm not saying that she made that decision herself. It was probably
Mm-hmm.
like also brought up between Judd and the grandparents.
Yeah.
And maybe Judd just like was like, okay, like putting my hands up.
Right.
It's hard.
Yeah, I mean, do we know whether he started drinking when Charlie was still in his care?
See, I don't think it was anything like that. Like I don't.
No, I'm not saying like that necessarily. Sorry. What I'm saying is I'm wondering if he had started drinking when Charlie was still in his care generally, like not to as bad a degree, but he knew he was struggling. Maybe he had agreed with it easier because he was maybe somewhat aware that he might get to a point where he couldn't properly take care of her, or maybe he just had doubts about being able to take care of her in general, even without the drinking.
Right. Yeah, because
Um,
the last time I saw her was like in the first or second episode. And
yeah.
like he was, I feel like because he had like her, like it was like, oh, he has to take care of her and stuff like that. But then like when she was not there, it's a lot more like quiet in the house. It's a lot more depressing. So that's probably
Mm-hmm.
when the drinking got like more like obsessive, I'll say.
Yeah. Makes sense.
I mean, I am kind of glad that they did say that Charlie's not there, but
Mm-hmm.
it's also like, it's difficult. It's difficult anytime dealing with substance um problems, but especially when there are children in the picture.
Yeah.
So I'm glad Charlie is happy and healthy elsewhere, but when they said that, I had the serious concern that like she'd gotten taken by her grandparents because of the drinking, and
Mm,
I'm glad they established it wasn't that. But yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. I do feel like I don't think it's completely out of the blue for Judd to be experiencing problems because we have seen this before. Mostly season one, but I would say maybe glimpses of it since then. Um, but I don't know.
Yeah.
It is a degree of time between those two low points. But I do think from what we've seen in like Judd and Grace Begins and all that, he is not immune to low points.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember, gosh, what episode was it? It was a couple of episodes in to this season. I remember he came home and there were like beer bottles and stuff around. And I remember thinking then, and he had Charlie like after that. So then I'm like, okay, I knew that the house was like that. I'm like, you're taking a kid into this. So I'm glad that she's not experiencing that and having
Yeah.
to deal with that. But I also feel bad for her because she feels bad about not being able to, the house is different without mommy at home, yet daddy's still there. And then now daddy's not there either because she's with her grandparents.
Yeah. Which Grace was probably around the house a lot more, like with her more often.
Well, and
too.
then there was that whole, what, 6 months or more that he was off taking care of Wyatt, so Wyatt was around. So
Right.
so I imagine he would have gotten a, I don't know. We could talk about it forever. I feel like it's a tough situation to be in. But I'm glad that he finally made the choice to let Charlie go stay with her grandparents for while Grace is gone. Because
Yeah.
I wouldn't want my kid around that too. So I feel like at that time he was acknowledging there was something going on, just not to the extent of how bad it was.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
Well,
to
we don't need to
see.
go over the logistics.
I know.
Logistics
I'm
do not
like,
need to be done
it's
here.
like,
Gross.
it's like, oh, I do not want to think about it, but it's also like, wait, why? What? It's
Yeah,
a
it does bring up
lot.
for
I
sure.
can question anything to the ground,
Oh,
and
I
I
could too.
realize that. So,
It's like I think that's kind of like the thing.
Yeah.
It's like there's the average viewer, and then there's definitely the fans of the show, but then there's us where we can literally decode a whole episode of like different things, but be like, but what about this? What about that? It's like a whole other level. And
Yeah.
I've gotten so good at that.
Promo time.
Oh yeah, promo time.
Remember time.
So, we start out with the asteroid threat to Austin 1 hour, and Judge reading this off of his phone, like one of the like emergency alert things, and then so they're running somewhere, the 126, and it's like, oh, let's go, and then Wyatt is saying how the asteroid can splinter into a million tiny pieces, and then another dispatcher is like, or become a statewide extinction attack. And it's like, yeah, let's not say that, but okay. Um, and
And E
then
E.
yeah, and then they're in the fire truck, and Marjorie's like, anybody else getting end of days vibes? And it's like,
Didn't she
what's...
say that at the beginning of season 2 with the volcano? I feel like she said something like it.
I mean, yeah, she's not wrong.
No, she's not.
Yeah, I definitely felt that before. So I
Yeah.
totally get that.
Yeah.
Oh, I feel that every day at the moment. So,
Yeah,
like, yeah, I agree
I
with you,
I I
Marjan.
I agree. I agree with that statement too. Anyways, and then all of Austin, it's like all of Austin is holding their breath. They're saying this on the news, and we see Tommy like watching the news and just being like, "Oh, damn!" And then we see people panicking on the street, which
Just
normal stuff.
naturally.
And Owen is saying there's no other group he'd rather be with in a time like this, and things look bad. Um, like just seeing everyone like, okay, Mateo has blood all over his face and stuff.
Oh,
So I don't know what's happening there, but
surely there's nothing going on there.
surely not. I had seen that before and I was like, okay. And then Owen says like 126 forever, and then there was like another for the last few episodes promo that I did see that had some good things in it, because it's like the news talking about the asteroid like basically coming straight to Austin. And then we see TK calling Carlos and says how he doesn't know what's gonna happen when this thing hits, and Carlos says, "Babe, no goodbyes." Um, and then Judd says how I love you, my brothers and sisters,
Aw.
and Paul saying like this is like our family, and I'm just
Oh.
Okay.
it feels and I don't know, just so many things like uh
Like this is well, they're filming like this all is their goodbye to the show too.
yeah,
So
that's
I know I'm gonna cry both of the next episodes.
Right.
And I know
yeah,
I don't know what's gonna happen. They could choose
yeah.
to end this many different ways.
Yeah, and like I did see something that was like talking about like not only like TK and Carlos adopting Jonah, but also like saying like their decision, um, like it leads to an ultimate decision for one of these guys, and like it's series altering moment, and I'm just like, oh, that'd be making me think things,
Mm-hmm.
because it's like leading more towards like TK leaving his job because this is definitely going to be the asteroid is definitely going to be that storyline that is going to make
Yeah.
TK reconsider his whole career, his whole life.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not again, I'm not surprised, but this
I think, yeah, I think it's going to put things in perspective, and
Yeah.
there's gonna be a lot of decisions made that will impact the characters and how the series ends. But I
Yeah.
think it may set up for possible continuation by another network, or
Yeah.
a
Yeah, because I did read a
spin-off or
while
something.
ago like how
yeah.
um like when the season started it was said that like basically they're going to end it in a way where there is closure but there also is a good opening for something else,
Yeah.
so I'm interested to see
Yeah.
how they get there.
Especially if the new one winds up being some involving someone from this at all. Like,
Yeah,
yeah, I don't know. Still have no idea what's happening there. But
Yeah.
nobody does, and that's supposed to technically come out in September of 2025.
How do we not know anything about it then?
I know
excuse me, that's
We're
exactly.
9 months.
soon.
They were saying that it's gonna, but I highly doubt it's gonna happen now because it's like, how are you gonna come out with this in September if we literally don't know where it's taking place?
And do we know what network it was supposed to air on?
ABC.
Okay.
It's gonna be another ABC one.
Good, because Fox just screws theirs up, so
Fox
might
literally
as
is gonna
well
have
like
nothing airing, and they're gonna really be screwed. Like I literally saw that this episode was number one on Hulu. As have
Mm.
half the episodes been number one on Hulu. Literally the day they go on Hulu, that it's like, oh, they're number one, and I'm like, well, Fox is really gonna realize how much they fucked up.
well, they already lost one of their number one shows with 911 because that's
Mm.
over on ABC now.
Mhm.
Especially with the success of season 7, that probably smacked them across the face. Um, season 8 remains to be seen. Um, but the fact that they're making this decision with a constantly popular show, I don't think Lone Star's ever not been popular. Like it's been, if not number one, up there the entire time it's aired, I'm pretty sure.
Okay,
Um,
yeah, like between 911 Lone Star when they're airing same network, they were like number one and number two.
Yeah.
And then like Lone Star, I remember specifically like during the snowstorm, those episodes were number one every single week. High
Yeah.
yeah.
ratings. The series started out with really high ratings. Like I'm pretty sure the series premiere had like 11 million people watching it. And they were steady 4 million, 4 million like for most of the series, and even like the season before when they were airing on a different day, the ratings
Mhm.
were still like pretty good. Like yes, they were down a tiny bit, but that's just because it switched days.
Right. But even so, it switched days, and the first few episodes were a little low, but then they started to pick up throughout the season. I think as people got used to watching it on the other day, and
Right. Yeah.
And there's been a fair amount of days switching around as far as I think both of them go, but I think especially Lone Star, like I don't know, but it's done well. So I don't know, Fox is doing us stupid and they will figure that out.
yeah, and I was just
But
literally just realized this, but Lone Star premiered, like we're recording this like in the middle of the January, and I'm like, yeah, that premiered 5 years ago.
Literally.
dang,
And we're coming
that
to the end
same
of season
year
5.
we started. But
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting, and I feel like I have this gut feeling that when the show is fully canceled and done and stopped airing, I think there's going to be some grand announcement that nobody was expecting, and it's going to be that either a couple of the cast members are going to the new series, or that 911 Lone Star is picked up by one of the streaming networks. But I'm glad
regardless
we're
of
here,
that.
and yeah, I mean, I'm here with it. And yeah, there was a lot of day switching, but Lone Star held its own even when 911 wasn't airing.
Yeah, it really did.
I'm confident that there's some sort of future for 911 Lone Star.
We shall see.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, it's having a pretty good last season. So we're here for it.
Going out with a bang, I guess.
Oh, we
Out with the-
really are.
Maybe for real.
The fans are like, screw you, Fox. We'll burn you to the ground.
Oh God. Like that promo photo that was released of like Owen and TK underneath the fire truck, and like they're practically holding hands. I was like, oh God.
I'll take it. At least they're in a scene together. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I know, at this point, I'll take what I can get.
Right.
And again, still posting missing posters for Buttercup.
Yes.
Yeah, where is
But
Buttercup?
you know,
We need
Like-
one last Buttercup. Like, for real.
it's been all season. I'm pretty sure. I don't think we've seen him at all.
Oh, if that's it. Grace kidnapped Buttercup and brought him with her. That's where Buttercup is.
He is doing good mission work on board a ship, which is surely conducive to dogs.
Yeah.
That's it. You cracked the code. We can stop looking now. Thank you guys so much for joining us and listening. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcasts, and be sure to check out our website at 901lsroundup.com. You guys can also follow the podcast on our socials at 901LS Roundup on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok. As always, be sure to join our Discord server. The link will be in the description of this podcast and also on our website.
You guys can follow me, Katie, at Carlos on TikTok, Threads, and Instagram.
You guys can follow me, Grace, at RonanRatha911 on Instagram and Threads.
Follow me, EJ, at EJ8302 on Instagram and Threads. Hi.
Bye.